Hello YouTube. So today I want to talk about the elemental reaction in burning. Burning is a reaction that most of the community seems to write off as not being good due to how little damage it does and how hard it is to make a good team centered around it. However, this is actually a misunderstanding regarding what makes burning such a potentially insane reaction. So in this video, I am going to explain this and explain how Fontaine could potentially make this reaction quite amazing. So let's just jump right into this. Alright, so first we need to understand what burning does. Burning is the reaction between pyro and dendro. Applying dendro on pyro, or pyro on dendro, will cause 4 rapid instances of pyro damage onto the enemy. This allows both dendro and pyro to be auras simultaneously. This is very similar to electrocharged, allowing both hydro and electro to be applied at the same time. Electrocharged is known as being one of the best reactions in Genshin, not because of its damage, but because of the enabling powers of having these two elements applied at the same time. This allows for amazing chain reactions such as dendro on electrocharged, creating both bloom and quicken, pyro on electrocharged, causing both vaporize and overload, or anemo on EC, able to swell both electro and hydro. But what type of reaction chains can burning enable? The most well-known one is reverse melt teams, in which you use burning as a means of consistent pyro application for your cryo unit to melt. However, this isn't something that burning is actually needed for. Even before dendro, we already had plenty of means of pyro application to enable melt. The dendro here in reverse melt is not being utilized to its fullest. So let's take a look at another reaction chain. This one is known as quick burn, which involves electro, dendro, and pyro. Without going too deep into the elemental gauge theory behind this, I will try to explain this reaction chain. How this works is, dendro and electro are able to coexist on an enemy at the same time. Applying pyro onto dendro plus electro, your pyro unit will trigger both overload and burning. Thanks to the burning, you will now have dendro plus pyro as your auras onto the enemy. Burning also does not fully consume the underlying quicken, so you will still have quicken applied. This allows your following electro application to frequently trigger both overload and aggravate at the same time. Then, the following pyro application, as long as electro is reapplied as an aura, can start the chain over again by causing overload plus burning. This allows the production of overloads in your team to be maximized in a way normally not possible without burning. Electro fully consumes a pyro of the same gauge, and pyro fully consumes an electro aura of the same gauge. Because of this, whichever element has the slower application would normally be the overload trigger, since the faster element will almost always be the aura. But with burning, you get 2 overloads per pyro application instead of 1. So with burning, you get 1 overload from your pyro, then another from your electro. And since burning does not fully consume dendro, as long as your electro is fast enough to refresh quicken in time, you can get full quicken uptime while doing this. These are the 2 most well-known reaction chains using burning, but there is another reaction chain burning enables, which I believe could become very good in Fontaine. The reaction chain I am talking about is applying hydro onto burning for forward vaporize. Currently, forward vaporize is a very hard reaction chain to consistently utilize in a team. This is because with forward vaporize, applying hydro onto pyro fully consumes the pyro aura unless the gauge is strong enough. As a result, you need to have extremely fast pyro application to sustain it as the aura. Otherwise, your next instance of hydro application will create hydro as the aura. Once this happens, it is almost impossible to regain pyro. This is because pyro on hydro is a reverse reaction, meaning pyro application does not fully consume hydro application of the same gauge. In other words, you will need several instances of pyro application to remove the hydro and regain pyro as the aura. But within the time you spend trying to apply this much pyro, your hydro unit would be reapplying and refreshening the hydro aura. So you are basically never getting pyro back if this happens. Burning, however, is able to solve this problem. As we mentioned, burning allows both pyro and dendro to be applied onto the enemy at the same time. Now, what will happen is, you apply hydro onto pyro, vaporize is triggered, the pyro aura is removed. Your next instance of hydro application will then be applied onto the dendro aura and create bloom. However, you will still have dendro on the enemy. This is because hydro onto dendro is treated as a reverse reaction, meaning hydro application onto dendro aura of the same gauge does not fully consume the Dendro. So, because Dendro is acting as a sponge to soak up your excess Hydro, you will have little to no risk of the enemy ending up with a Hydro Aura. This means that your next instance of Pyro application will be applied onto Dendro, creating burning yet again. So you get to keep repeating the reaction chain: burning, vaporize, bloom, burning, vaporize, bloom. But that's not actually all. Remember, we are also creating blooms whenever we apply Hydro onto the Dendro Aura. So our Pyro unit is going to be proccing Burgeon on those seeds, able to deal good AoE damage with them. So, with that in mind, the reaction chain will look more like burning, vaporize, bloom, burgeon, burning, vaporize, bloom, burgeon. At this time, the only team that really takes advantage of forward vaporize with burning is my unpopular and infamous creation of Chaos Cyno, aka Cyno, Yelan, Nahida, Toma. I won't go too in-depth with how the reaction chain in that team works, as there is so much precise elemental gauge theory abuse going on there that seems like it shouldn't work, yet it does, hence why I called it Chaos. It's complete madness, but there's a method to the madness. But in this Chaos Cyno team, Yelan is a sub-DPS and utilizes burning to vaporize her cast burst and skill, or both casts of her skill if she is C1, for an AoE Hydro nuke. She also gets to vaporize a few of her dice during Cyno's fill time. Now, while this is a really cool reaction, Vaporize is just a side player in that team and not the actual focus. The burning Vaporize reaction chain allows for forward Vaporize to actually be the primary means of damage on the team. But right now, we just don't have any Hydro units with kits that would allow them to truly take advantage of this. With amplifying reactions, you really want to be able to consistently amp your highest multipliers. For example, Hu Tao can consistently vaporize her charged attack, Ganyu can consistently melt her charged shots, and Yoimiya can consistently vaporize her N5, and so on. But what do we have for Hydro? Child can consistently vaporize his burst, but that's just one instance of damage. Throughout his fill time, he has a bunch of instances of a low multiplier Hydro damage, which makes it near impossible to consistently vaporize a specific high multiplier hit. If you end up consistently vaporizing a low multiplier hit, then the vaporize is kinda wasted. Amplifying reactions are multiplicative, and multiplying a small number still results in a small number. The only other good on-field Hydro option we have right now is Ayato. You could try to make this work with Ayato. None of his hits are significantly bigger than the rest, so it wouldn't matter too much which one vaporizes. However, his scalings and stats are simply not set up well for him to excel in a hyper carry style role like this, so the damage is just not going to be there. You would also run the risk of his burst stealing vaporizes, which would be a problem since Ayato is going to have more normal attack damage bonus than burst damage bonus. You could try something gimmicky like an on-field charged attack Mona or Barbara, since they both have surprisingly high charged attack multipliers with no ICD, but like, we all know that's gonna suck. So, what we need to be able to truly take advantage of this reaction chain is either a true Hydro Hyper Carry or sub DPS. A Hydro Hyper Carry would be able to make perfect use of this if they have a single high multiplier hit in which their ICDs allow them to vaporize each time. So something along the lines of a Hydro Hu Tao, Hydro Ganyu, or maybe even a Hydro Diluc could work splendidly. Obviously, I don't mean copying their kit and making it Hydro, but having their kit set up in a similar way to utilize Vaporize. And as for a Hydro sub DPS, our current best ones are Xingqiu and the Yelan. They are not ideal for consistent forward Vaporize because their damage is split into multiple smaller scaling kits. Ideally, we would want a unit with a single high multiplier hit that they can consistently do from off-field, with ICD set up to be able to consistently vaporize it. Like, to help you understand what I'm envisioning, imagine if Yelan's burst was a single instance of Hydro damage, but had the scaling of all 3 dice combined into one hit, and had no ICD so that she still applied Hydro on each proc. If her burst was set up like that, and she could consistently vaporize it, can you imagine how much damage she could do? That is what takes us to Fontaine. Fontaine is the Hydro region, so if we are ever going to get a true Hydro Hyper Carry or Hydro sub DPS like this, I can't think of a better time than Fontaine. Of course, I am by no means saying that we will ever get anything even remotely similar to this in Fontaine. I am clearly hoping that we do. It is entirely possible that a unit like I've described will never exist. Only time will see. But yeah, if you liked today's video, please be sure to give a like and subscribe. Also, please leave a comment below letting me know your thoughts. Thanks. Bye.